Ilaria Bernardini, welcome to the Great Big Book Club. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Imogen.
So how's your lockdown been?
Well, it's been tough at the beginning, like very claustrophobic and kind of this weird void and stillness and bubble where I couldn't find my focus or understand how I was going to write or function. And then everything was kind of back. So I'm writing a lot, and I guess with all the I'm writing also many movies right now. So I guess with all the sets closed, there's this kind of frenzy suddenly. So I have so many deadlines, and I'm constantly on Zoom calls with other writers. So it's good. It's good. And I'm used to be traveling so much that I actually find it kind of good to have for a while a bit of roots and being here and being able to just stay.
Being a bit calmer than normal.
Yes, which I thought it was impossible for me, but actually I kind of like it. I also kind of like it now because I know everything is easing up probably, so I see the light at the end of this tunnel and it's easier. There was a phase when you really had no idea of what span we were talking about, of this silence and remoteness of oneself, but now it's back, so it's good.
And you're joining us today to talk about your fantastic book, The Portrait.
This one.
Yes, what a great cover it's got.
Yes, the cover is the Italian one is very, very different. So this is the English one, and I've just received the American one yesterday, which is so different again. So everybody went for their own. I'm learning, I had no idea about the English market or how readers was. So it was a journey, the cover too. So this is like hiding her eyes, and she has a very plumpy mouth. I wasn't sure at the beginning because the Italian one is very, very arty in a way. It's this work by Elena Almeida, so very 70s, very feminist, very performance artist, and this felt very girly to me in a way. But then now I'm very fond of it.
It looks fantastic. Could you possibly read a little bit from it for us, just so we can get an essence of the book?
Yes, sure. How long? Half an hour? 1 hour? What shall I do? Okay. So Valeria is the protagonist. This you should know before you hear this. And she's a writer, and she's 55, and she's about to go to London to maybe see the lover of her life. Valeria filed a piece of paper before returning to her packing. Many of her ideas, bits of stories, fragments of dialogues, were jotted down on napkins, the back of receipts, anything that happened to be lying around when plots or characters arrived in her head. She didn't want the ideas to be transcribed on fresh pieces of paper, but they were always filed in order, chronologically, when possible, and if already titled, alphabetically too. Once, Valeria had agreed to publish pictures of her workspace in a literary magazine. One of them was a close-up of her archives, and when Valeria saw it in print, she hated how they looked. Were any of her secrets revealed? There was a pen Martin had given her visible on her desk. It was a pen from a hotel in Shanghai. Might Martin's wife pick up on something from it? "I'm your lover," Valeria had told him many times. "You have a wife, a family, and then there is me, the mistress." Every time she said mistress, she would also smile to make sure it wouldn't come across as nagging or her asking him to leave his wife. "You are my love," Martin would tell her. "I adore you." "You love only me?" she would sometimes ask. But it wasn't very often, for Valeria didn't care about being the other one, nor did she wish to be the only one. She didn't want a husband, she didn't want a family, she loved Martin, but she wanted to be alone and to keep the empty space for Sibylla and for all the stories. They both traveled so much that they would plan encounters months in advance. Valeria was pretty sure that with all those planes and trains, she saw Martin more than his wife did. Not that there was a competition, Valeria would tell herself. Of course there isn't, she would remind herself, whenever Martin and his wife appeared in magazines holding hands. "Will you write our story?" Martin would ask Valeria. "I always do," Valeria would say. "We are in all my stories." It was true. Many of their conversations, just like many of the rooms they had slept in, ended up in her stories. A version of the time they thought. they were going to die in a storm during a transatlantic flight to New York, appeared on the front page of the Sunday Meta. I don't know, shall I go on like forever?
No, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So could you tell us a bit about the plot of it? Just
Yeah.
so it's about an affair, obviously.
Yes, it's about Valeria and Martine, two women in their 50s who have loved for all their lives the same man, Martina Cla. One is the lover and the other one is the wife. So Valeria, the lover, she's a writer, very accomplished one. Like she goes around the world doing panels and talks, and she's like kind of iconic for her generation. And Isla, the wife, was a very accomplished also painter and artist and performer artist, but she has stopped painting for the last 10 years or so, we think. And what happens is that Martin, their lover, the love of their life, has a stroke. So he lies in a coma, and the mistress, Valeria, has no access to him. So she comes up with this invention, also goofy, she's very embarrassed about this lie, of wanting to have a portrait taken of her face for the new book that's coming out. So for the last page where you put, the author picture. And she asks her agents and the publishers for Ayla Akla, the wife of her lover, to be the painter. So she has access to this house, to this Grand Holland Park house where her love lies in a coma. And that's actually the first page because that's where they begin. So it's the story about Valeria and Ayla meeting and this sitting for this portrait. And of course, it becomes like a revolution and a revelation for both of them, and the mirroring of one another in another life. These two women could have been really good friends also. They are artists, they are kind of complex and what Valeria hadn't thought by entering this house was that she would also be able to spy on this woman in a way that wouldn't have been allowed in any other situation of life. You cannot like stare and look at what shape is there, feet, shoes, nose, everything. So it's about these sittings and about this revolutionary times in their lives.
It's such a fantastically brilliant premise. It's stalkerish and artistic, and two people sitting opposite each other for hours and hours at a time. I mean, how did you come up with the idea? Was it like a sort of a bolt from the blue, or had you been mulling over how to play around with women's relationships? I mean, how did it transpire?
I think it was a series of things. So one, there was this actress who was called Valeria. She's a famous actress in Italy called Valeria Golino. And I was sleeping at her house, and another very famous actress was sleeping there. We were sleeping there, and it was years they were asking for me to write something for them. And they were both, it was kind of a boozy night, and we were talking about, they still are so beautiful, but they were also talking about things that were starting changing, and they both had very young boyfriends too. And so I mean we went into this space of women talking about this kind of exact moment in life, but I didn't have the idea. So the morning after I left, and for the eggs time, I said, I don't have an idea for you girls, but it's great to be still drinking all together in Puglia. But then I take this very long train to Italy, to Milan, so it's like 10, 12 hours, endless hot. And suddenly the whole story came. Like I had this Valeria, this Ayla, 55, which I was like 38 by then, but I was completely immersed in this medianic, I think, situation of channeling, bringing in this other, kind of womanhood. And then I think we all have heard so many stories of when a man, dies or is sick, especially if he's wealthy, there's a knock on the door. Sometimes they say, hi, I was there forever too, and it's another girl, maybe pregnant or another life. Also our grandfathers, even if it was just a train ride or a taxi ride around the corner. So it was that too. And then also the fact that I had been in London for the last 6-7 years, and it was completely new, this kind of scene I was experiencing, dinners also where it seemed like nobody was actually really from London, but everybody had left a past somewhere else. Was it Greece, Portugal, France? There was this common language of a weird English we all spoke. And in fact, I wanted to write it in Italian, but then started and it felt a translation the other way around. So I just went for this weird English. And then, and so it was a mixture of these things. And also I have been writing this TV series called In Treatment, which is the one, there's with Gabriel Byrne. He's a psychotherapist, and every Monday, every Tuesday, he meets a different patient. And I was very fascinated by kind of set where you only had the dialogues and the mirroring unfolding. So I wanted this thing of whatever happened the day before, Valeria would sit on this chair, move with the same, choreography, the jacket, and she would have in front Isla, and in the chaotic life, anything would happen, they would sit, whatever would happen. And so
it's like a reset. It's like a reset. Every day is a reset. But also there's that incredible intimacy of have you ever had your portrait painted?
Yes, I have for this experience. I tried and I wondered. So it can take like very long. It can be one sitting. It depends. In their case, it's maybe a few weeks. So this is the span. But yes. And also the thoughts you have while you're being portrayed. Like, will I be pretty? Is it important for me to be very pretty while I'm doing a work of art? Am I the subject or she's the subject? Am I studying her or should I mean? So it's all this. It's very... also threatening but humbling. It's that kind of situation where you end up crying a few times and you don't even know why, because you said something about your mom, and so they do that, like they bring out in this safe bit sacred space, and you don't know if the wife knows, if she's meeting Valeria knowing that she's actually drawing the lover or not. But I can't tell you.
No, don't tell me the ending, because I do know the ending, but I won't be spoiling it because it's so brilliant, the ending. It's just delicious. But I do think the idea that it's so exposing being painted, the idea that you're sitting there and every sort of layer of skin is slowly but surely coming off. I mean, that's presumably what you were enjoying when you were doing the writing.
Absolutely. And I read a lot about it. I was obsessed with essays on the face, the identity of the self. And I would take these walks at the portrait gallery and completely lose myself, both in the cliches of it, like the idea that every eye you meet in the rooms kind of follows you. And then went into studying, the philosophy of consciousness and what it meant for the others to be looking at you. And also what I had never thought about before was that you always, grasp like the portrait as if it was 1 second, 1 moment. In fact, it's this layer of time. So maybe you met 30 times, and once you were so sad, once you were completely, post, a fantastic news. But then you have just like life, just like now I see you today and it feels like I have your face, but your face has also inside the yesterday, your hopes and everything. So it was also all those thoughts. And also the fact I was saying before that Valeria sits so scared, of what this portrait will give back of her. But at the same time, she can be with this others woman and smell her and have an idea of what the man they both loved had chosen in his life for decades.
But it's also wonderfully creepy. It slightly reminds me of a Nabokov book called Laughter in the Dark, where they end up, the husband ends up going blind and the lover walks around the house and tickles him with a feather. I mean, there's something sort of deeply creepy about the husband slowly, leaving this world, and his 2 lovers sitting there, sort of almost in some sort of like game of chess.
Totally. And also the lover has no idea if this is by any means what he would ever want. She does feel guilty. She had never crossed the line. She really knew and she cherished and celebrated their boundaries. She didn't want to be in that house with him. But so she is, or maybe did he actually want her to do exactly that? And for the 2 women, when he's disappearing, to be in the same place, under the same roof. It's both a nightmare for the man, for sure, but maybe also the liberation, it's the moment in life where you have to let go of everything anyway, jealousy, possession, territory, vanity. So they're doing that. They're doing this dance of letting go of what all they thought they were. Like
Amazing. So
they
I'm going
were.
to ask you, so you've written 8 books before, and this
Yes.
is the first one that you've written in English. I mean, that's quite a big ask, isn't it? Are you bilingual, or were you born?
No, I was raised speaking in English too, and I've been always, of course, like spending a lot of time in England and doing boarding schools and things. So yes, there was English, but it's not my mother tongue. But it from my past, nothing major has happened in my past in English. So I was thinking while I was writing that my mother tongue, of course, is where also I said, I love you many times, and I had my fights with my mother, or everything terrible and beautiful that happened in while shouting or murmuring in Italian. So it is different. It's like a clean, fresh idioma, like language, and it was liberating. It was difficult. It was claustrophobic in terms of having less of the nuances, having to keep a pace. Very different. I'm a very fast writer, and I'm like running and doing this thing, and I couldn't, and it was hard. I had to like be very does this grammatically work. It was very slow, and also in Italian, I'm sure I can give where a character comes from. Is she rich, poor? Where was she raised? In which region? All this is something, of course, I don't have for the English language. But at the same time, what was beautiful is that in Italian I have cliches. I have things that I know how to do and I now do. And it was beautiful to find a new voice and a new way of saying things. And also it allowed me to be sentimental, which I would find kind of pornographic and vulgar in Italian. I'm kind of raw and dry. I would never write I love you. Like I'm known for very, not cutting edge, but quite, yeah, kind of not romantic novels, and they're kind of dark. And this one is like full of life and I love yous and hugs and things, which is unexpected because, necessarily Italian would feel romantic in a way. But maybe it's because of that I cannot go in the Baroque romantic, but I can do the I love you, the simple one, So the love you that works both for daughters and husbands and lovers.
It's
So
quite fun as well that your view of W10, W11, West London, Notting Hill. You see all the landmarks. You go to extraordinary places. Did you enjoy researching that? Were you just pretending that you were a lovely, light-hearted tourist out there? Or?
Yeah, no, I loved it. It was a lot of walks, a lot of Google Maps, and seeing me like a dot on these neighborhoods and corners, and reading a lot of the works of Virginia Woolf, kind of channeling her, bringing her into. So it was a lot of that kind of sensation. And Valeria, our protagonist, she comes from somewhere else. So being a stranger in London was also right for the character. So it was good to get lost. It was good to have to suddenly call an Uber because you have no idea where you are because you walked too much, and some corners are just identical. Let's face it. It's like a loop. So you have no idea where you are. And so I kind of used everything. Also her obsessions, will I cross Hyde Park and be at the Portrait Gallery in 2 hours so Martin will survive? So I would do it. I would just get lost there and try to walk and make it happen, because she's kind of an obsessive character, this one, no?
Yes, she is, absolutely. And you've written a lot of journalism and for film and television as well.
Yes.
Do you find the novel is your favourite place to be, or do you prefer mixing it up a bit?
Well, I think it's my natural place to be for sure, but it's the toughest. I hate it. It's horrible. So the portrait took like 5 years, and what I didn't need was a lockdown after that, because I was locked down for 5 years on my own with doubts and nightmares. But so I was really looking forward for touring and being around people right now. So I do need to be with in other writers' room to do the movies and to do articles, to have like this exchange and sharing, because I've been writing since I was 17, 18. My first book, I was very young. So this has been my life. It's like a pretty lonely life. It's a desk and a room. And so now, for example, I'm writing many movies and things because I don't want to go. I'm jotting down a new novel, but I don't want to do it because I just want to be with others. Even on Zoom calls, it's fine, but I need to be with others and be nurtured by their ideas and love. So it is my natural place. Everything else I do it because I write novels. So I write articles as a novelist. And if people call me for a movie, it's because of my novels. I'm not a screenwriter like properly. But at the same time, as you know, it's challenging and it's lonely sometimes. So
Yeah, very lonely. It can be like diving into a swimming pool and never coming out again. It's
yeah,
yes, and you're underwater for weeks and weeks and weeks, and you go slightly deaf.
and
Um,
I'm
yeah.
so claustrophobic. I don't even take the lift in real life. So imagine, not right for me.
But you've been writing. I saw you just did a brilliant piece for the BBC about the Lombardy lockdown. Can you just tell me a bit about that? What you've just done recently?
Yes. So about the piece or about the experience?
No, about the experience. I don't know. Tell me about the story.
Yeah.
It looks like it was horrible.
Yes. So the beginning of the lockdown was, well, I think everywhere, but maybe in Italy more because we were the first ones here in Europe, and it was, facing the unknown and the sudden void. What was beautiful, I mean, what happened in Milan was that immediately there was this coming together, which then after we all saw that happen in Spain too, and in London and in New York. So everywhere, like people gathered around this new loneliness and tried to reach to the community that was out there. So at the beginning, we only heard, sirens and birds, and the numbers are still the worst than anywhere else. So it was really, really tough. For me, it was really tough because I flew back from London and I was separated from my son at the beginning. So it was completely unknown how that worked too. And it was probably the first time ever in my life that I wasn't in control and I couldn't micromanage every single second of the movement of the whole family. So it was intense. And I'm sure like for every mother writer out there, it's also been very challenging in terms of also getting to know your own kids and being able to write and have your brain functioning creatively, and at the same time like following French lessons and art and things. And I wasn't used to it, and it's been also beautiful now because I realized after 2-3 months I know really to another deeper extent my son, and it wouldn't have happened. So I guess there's always been this silver lining throughout the experience. The experience was terrifying, but at the same time there was always this kind of key of reading it in another, yeah.
And you say that you're not writing at the moment. You are sort of jotting down ideas. Are you going to have another contract? Do you have to deliver another one, or you do?
No, I have to deliver. I have contracts with the movies now, so I'm delivering. So the portrait, they're making it into a TV series, which I'm not writing, but it's fun. And then I'm working on the previous novel called The Faremo Foresta. We will grow a forest, and we're doing the screenplay on that one. Then a previous novel, which is called The Gymnast. I'm writing that screenplay with other 2 writers. And then I'm writing for a director an original idea. It's her own idea and we're writing it, and it's been like 6 months now into the treatment, and we're now a pre-script stage. We've been like working on the stories and on the characters until now. And for my novels, I'm not sure. So I was talking this morning to my editor, and I'm like, I have 2-3 different things I want to do. So, but I don't want to do anything. So I don't even want to go and try to understand what. But I think there might be like the second. I always thought the portrait could be a trilogy. So there could be like the second of this one. Or if not, I began another book, which is the follow-up of my previous Italian one. So I don't know. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
Ilaria, I mean, congratulations. It is the most fantastic book. It's had incredibly good reviews all over the place already in America and in the UK. I mean, hats off. It's a really brilliant book. And it's gripping, sexy, interesting, just it's a really fantastic book. So congratulations and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.